2022 was an incredible year for Republicans in New York. Their nominee for governor, Lee Zeldin, received more votes than any other Republican candidate in history aside from Nelson Rockefeller. Zeldin's incredible performance at the top of the ticket boosted his party to a near complete sweep in the House elections within the state. Republicans picked off 2 seats in Long Island, 1 in Westchester, and 1 upstate. They also held on to a couple of seats that voted for Biden, like Districts 1 and 22. But for all of these incredible successes, they had one frustrating failure that likely won't be going away anytime soon, and it occurred in District 18. District 18 is a majority white seat that lies in the central Hudson Valley and tends to swing back and forth with the country. It voted for Joe Biden in 2020, but in the state's 2018 gubernatorial race, it was in the Republican column. In 2022, it continued its swingy tradition, giving its support to Lee Zeldin at the gubernatorial level, but sending Democrat Pat Ryan back to Congress for his first full term. Given everything else that happened in New York, the fact that Ryan managed to hold on was, in retrospect, impressive. Democrats lost 2 seats that were bluer than his, and they got shellacked in the other upstate races, specifically his neighboring districts. Yet, for whatever reason, they couldn't get the job done against Ryan, who was quickly establishing himself as one of the biggest forces to be reckoned with in New York's Democratic politics. Ryan's national career only really began in 2018, where he jumped in the race for New York's 19th district. At the time, the seat was held by a Republican, but with the blue wave midterm approaching, it seemed flippable. While the district did end up flipping, it was not by Ryan's doing. He had lost the Democratic primary to Antonio Delgado, and seeing as Delgado was a younger up-and-coming politician who just won a pretty impressive victory, any chance of Ryan representing the district seemed to have faded away. So, after his 2018 loss, he decided to go back to local politics, running for chief executive of Ulster County the next year. This time, Ryan got it done, winning the race by an impressive 26% margin over his Republican challenger. During Ryan's tenure as county executive, he became best known for leading his community through the COVID-19 pandemic, and likely made a name for himself within the Hudson Valley region. And luckily for him, the brand he was building up was about to pay off big time, because on August 23, 2021, Governor Andrew Cuomo resigned. Taking his place was Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, another Democrat expected to govern in a similar manner. But importantly for Ryan, Hochul had to pick someone to be her lieutenant governor. After all, as outgoing lieutenant governor, the seat had once again become vacant. And much to the surprise of the conventional wisdom, Hochul picked upstate politician Antonio Delgado, the varied representative that had beaten Pat Ryan in 2018. And without Delgado in the picture, the seat had gone back to being wide open. After Delgado officially resigned from the House, a special election was scheduled for August 23, 2022, eerily the 1-year anniversary of Cuomo's resignation. Ryan was the only Democrat to file for the race, meaning that he became the party's de facto nominee. But that was only where his challenges began. You see, in spring 2022, the Democratic Party was at a low point nationwide. Gas prices and inflation were at an all-time high, and Joe Biden's approval rating was at an all-time low. The conventional wisdom was that he was dragging down Democratic candidates, and almost every indicator pointed towards a Republican wave sweeping the nation, and such a wave would likely include Republicans winning the 19th district. After all, while Democrats had won the seat in 2018 and 2020, it was considered to be a major bellwether. So again, if the conventional wisdom was accurate, it would be one of the first seats in line to flip red. On top of the bad circumstances, Ryan was faced with the issue of having to run against a big name, Dutchess County Executive Mark Molinaro. Molinaro had actually been the 2018 Republican nominee for governor, and while he didn't win statewide, he had won District 19 by over 11 points. Molinaro also had more money to spend, meaning that he'd be able to get his message out more effectively. All of these things were big obstacles for Ryan to overcome, and on the day of the election, very few people expected him to win. The polling we had showed him down by fairly solid amounts, and the conventional wisdom was that Molinaro would take advantage of the Republican-leaning environment and flip back the district. But these expectations were soon proven wrong, and at around midnight, the race was called for Pat Ryan. It was immediately the upset of the year. It defied all conventional wisdom about the 2022 election cycle, and it had happened with a Democratic candidate considered to be mediocre, running against the best Republican recruit imaginable. Additionally, it completely bucked the trend of polls underestimating Republicans, as Ryan managed to win despite not leading in any of them. Overall, the election was a complete shock to most, and while Ryan was likely thrilled with his upset victory, he still had work to do to prepare for his next election coming in November. For the next 3 months, Ryan focused primarily on abortion. The issue had quickly become a key topic across the nation in the aftermath of the Dobbs decision, and many had credited it with giving Democrats life in the upcoming November elections. Either way, Ryan went back to the campaign trail, this time with more advantages. First of all, he was running in a new seat due to redistricting, and it was nearly 7% bluer than the one he'd had to win in August. Additionally, he didn't have to face off against Molinaro again, as Molinaro was running in the district to the north of Ryan's seat. And most importantly, Ryan now had the bonus of being the incumbent. Nevertheless, he didn't take any of it for granted, spending nearly $4.7 million for his re-election campaign. Ryan seemed to understand what many Democrats in New York did not. A red wave was coming, and while it wasn't going to materialize nationwide, it was going to hit New York and hit it hard. The first seats to flip red came in Long Island, where Republicans picked up the traditionally Democratic 3rd and 4th districts. Molinaro, Ryan's old opponent, was able to get the job done upstate for Republicans, flipping back the 19th district. Additionally, Republicans held on to the Biden-leading 22nd district based in Syracuse. But those losses were mild compared to what happened directly south of Ryan's district, down in the 17th. In a major upset, Republican Assemblyman Mike Lawler had beaten out Democrat Sean Patrick Maloney. Maloney's loss was a disaster for Democrats for a number of reasons. First of all, the seat had voted for Biden by double digits, and consequentially, Maloney was the Democrat in charge of controlling the party's finances. So, seeing their own leader get torched was really startling for many Democrats. But, nevertheless, none of these losses touched Pat Ryan, who, despite being sandwiched between the two GOP flips, had fended off a challenge from another Republican assemblyman. Based on the results, it's likely that Ulster, the county he had been the executive of, was what handed him the victory. Had Ryan done just a few points worse in the county, he would not have been reelected. Interestingly, in retrospect, Ryan's win was especially impressive considering he had less influence and was in a redder seat than Maloney. Ryan's recent victories say a lot about politics in the United States. First, comebacks are very real and can actually happen, even if Michael Jordan isn't involved. Secondly, accountability still matters. As pointed out, had Ryan not been well liked by his fellow Ulster County voters, it's likely that he wouldn't have had any sort of political future. But most importantly, it shows that campaigns should never take a race for granted and always assume there's going to be a wave hitting the opposite direction. After all, had Ryan not run the same disciplined campaign, he too may have gotten sunk along with the other New York Democrats. But for now, it'll be interesting to see if Ryan continues his career as a skilled politician. While he certainly deserves a lot of credit for his 2 victories this year, he'll need to keep it up if he wants to win again in 2024, and he'll have to keep it up if he wants to continue building a name for himself in New York.